Oh, welcome to another video, guys. So we have a huge update that got released yesterday. Now we know a bit more about the prestige system, we know about the perks that are gonna change, we know exactly what's gonna happen to them. There is a lot of information here. I'm gonna go through it, some of it more briefly, other things I'm gonna go a bit more in depth. First of all, it seems like this is coming to be PTB next week. So I will assume that mid-July we're gonna see the overhaul of the prestige system, we're gonna see the perk changes. So for those of you who have been asking about the date, next week PTB, mid-July-ish, we're gonna see this going live. Overall to the prestige system. This is basically how we've been talking about in the previous videos. They're gonna cut the grind by approximately 75%. So getting to Prestige 3 after this update is gonna be a walk in the park, it seems. Unlocking perks. This is gonna be what we said as well in the last video. Getting a character to Prestige 3 will unlock all their perks in purple on all the other characters. So this is how we've been talking about already. No more resets, this is the same. There will be no more items loss, perk loss, offering loss or add-on loss when you prestige a character. You will also now be forced to prestige a character. This is not anymore going to be an option. And to be honest, that makes sense. It's also going to be an increase in prestige limit to 100. That means you can prestige any character to 100. And the rewards that you will be getting from prestige 0 to 9 is changing. Now 4, 5 and 6 are gonna unlock the bloody outfit. Keep in mind, if you already had it, you will not lose it. You will not have to regain it at 4, 5 and 6, you will still keep that. But yeah, for those of you who haven't prestige, you will now gain that at 4, 5 and 6. And I assume this is going to be even faster than gaining prestige 3 right now. There is also going to be some new charms. 1 charm, or 3 charms for every character related to their perks. They are going to be unlocked at 7, 8 and 9. Someone pointed out in a comment the Shrine of Secrets change. The reason why I don't talk about this is because I personally don't use the Shrine of Secrets. I have used it a few times in the past when I was new to the game, and for new players it can be decent to get certain perks fast. The Shrine of Secrets will be even better now for that. When you unlock a perk in the Shrine of Secrets, you will get that perk instantly on all the characters that you have. So if you buy barbecue and chili for prestige 1, you will get that automatically unlocked on all the characters or all the killers. And you can even buy it again to increase the prestige on all the characters. So you can technically just buy 3 times in the Shrine of Secrets and unlock that perk. Now this is something that has been highly discussed, the transitioning to the new system. Now, first of all, the amount of perks that you have on a character will give you certain prestige levels. We don't know exactly how much, but the more perks you have and the more tiers you have on those perks will grant you some kind of prestige. This means that if you are level 50 and have never prestige, but you have all the perks in the game, you will be compensated for that. It also means that if you are prestige 3 and you are also having all the perks, you will probably be getting even more, I would assume. For the reward that we were highly discussing in the comment section on the last 2 videos, it is going to be a prestige icon. Now they have released a photo here showcasing some of these. Now it has been theorized that one of the colors is the people that weren't prestige before before the patch to 3. And the other one is for people that were already prestige 3 before this patch hits, because the icon is a gift to those who already prestige in the old system. Now I think this is wrong. There are a few more pictures that have been showcased, they are on Twitter, but what it looks like to me is that these colors here, this has nothing to do with that distinct icon, because these first of all are not distinct to each character. And I think what we're seeing here is the color from prestige 0 to 5 or prestige 1 to 5, and then it changes from 6 to 10. And we haven't seen any pictures of any prestige above that. So that's what I think this is. I think the reward icons that we are supposed to get for prestige 3 haven't been showcased yet, and I think they did that on purpose. I don't think these are the ones. I might be wrong though, and if I am wrong and these are the rewards, one of these two, well, that is even more disappointing than not getting an outfit. But yeah, I don't think we have seen yet what the reward is, and I don't think they would reveal it until PTB comes out. Kind of disappointing, but to be honest, at this point I didn't really expect anything, and I really hope they make them look really, really cool, at least, if that is anything. Matchmaking initiatives. So this is a huge text, but to sum it up, basically when there are lack of killers in your area at your MMR, you will get more blood points for playing killer. And the same goes for the other way around. If there are lack of survivors in your area and at around your MMR, you will get an increase in blood points for playing survivor. There is a little bit more detail about this, but that's like the gist of it, and they have thought about some of the problems with this, so I think this all looks pretty good. It's just a bonus for those who wants to have more blood points, and since they are now, we're going to be talking about this later, they are removing the blood points from We're Gonna Live Forever and perks in general like barbecue and chili. We're gonna have a way easier time leveling up. If you're kind of open to what you're playing, you can even go on a higher grind with this system. Gameplay updates. So these are the big ones that a lot of people have been talking about. They are increasing the time it takes to do a generator from 80 to 90 seconds. This is a pretty intense change, because during a match you will be doing 5+ generators, and that's 10 seconds per generator, and that's if you only do those 5. With regression perks, which aren't gone this patch, they are very much present still. Some of them has been nerfed to very unusable states, I would say, while others are still very strong. You can be doing up to, especially in solo matches, 6-7 gens sometimes in the worst case, and this prolongs the game a lot. My concern about generator increase in speeds, I think the point of it is that people don't feel like they have to use regression perks that much, and that's fine. I think that's a good thing. So yeah, the generators goes from 80 to 90 seconds. They have also increased given the effect of kicking a generator 2.5% from the maximum progress. So if you have repaired the gen for 2.5%, a killer can come and without pop or anything, just kick it down to 0 again. I think this is not really a problem. I think it's a good thing because it encourages people to kick a bit more. It also makes the kicking feel more worth it, which it isn't at the moment unless you have pop. Yeah, I think all over, generator speeds and the kicking here is generally okay. Now killer dispatch has been in the base game. Now looking away from all the perks changes and all that, even if you take in the perk changes, killers have been recently or reasonably buffed. Now the reason I say this is because it's now going to be faster to break walls, not by a lot. It's going to go from 2.6 seconds to 2.34. Generators kicks are also faster on top of doing more. They used to be 2 seconds, they are now 1.8. The cooldown for successful basic attacks by 10%, now 2.7, previously 3. This is massive. So you know when a killer hits you and they land a hit on you and injure you, that cooldown used to be 3, now it's 2.7 seconds. And 0.3 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. It is quite significant. So it's going to be way easier for a killer to catch up to you after he hits you. And as far as I know, you can also stack this with save the best for last, which is going to be absolutely crazy. They also reduced the speed boost upon hit by 10%. It was 2 seconds, now it's 1.8, so when you get hit, the killer is gonna recover faster from that swing, and you're gonna get less distance. Rather interesting, don't you think? This is something that really boggles my mind, because I've already read this yesterday. They have, with all these killer buffs, which I call them so far from what we have read, they have decided to buff on top of that Bloodlust. I think this is the strangest thing here. I don't think it's needed with these buffs, and I don't think they should encourage Bloodlust play, because Bloodlust is honestly not any more necessary in the game. There aren't any more true infinite, and they kind of encourage bad killer play. And on top of all of this, they are now gonna buff it. Chasing killers in this coming patch is gonna be less fun, I think, for survivors. It's gonna be easier for killers. Maybe that's needed, I don't know. But it's definitely gonna be a rougher time for survivors, and killers are gonna get faster away with chasing you around the pallet that they refuse to break, and you have no option but to wait for them to break it or to catch up. So this change itself, I really dislike this, especially looking at the other changes that just happened. And by the way, what they are doing is that you gain stage 2 and stage 3 of Bloodlust faster than before. Stage 1 is still the same, just to make that clear. So camping and tunneling. They want to do something about camping and tunneling, which is a good sentiment to have, but what I think the problem is here is that they fail to address camping. Tunneling, they have kind of improved, maybe even. I'm not so sure, because camping is not really addressed here at all, so this should basically have just been called tunneling. The reason I say that is because they have given borrowed time to everybody at base kit. Now this, I think, is a good thing. You will get the borrowed time effect for 5 seconds, not like the perk 15 seconds. And you will also get the same as Hope, a small speed buff, a haste, for 5 seconds. I don't think the haste really matters, because Hope is a fun perk to run and you will prolong a chase with it. But having 5 seconds of it after you get unhooked, it's not gonna make a ton of difference. It's gonna help you a little bit though, for sure. It's not massive from my perspective. The problem I see with this change, giving borrowed time to base kit and making the borrowed time the perk, now extends upon this. So using borrowed time is basically gonna give you the old borrowed time, so plus the haste. So you have 15 seconds of endurance to the person you unhook and 15 seconds haste. One of the issues with this is that, yes, they will prevent people from running borrowed time all the time, but is that actually gonna prevent tunneling? Because borrowed time was such a used perk that killers respected it anyway, and they respected it for 15 seconds. Now that it's nerfed, killers are gonna know that everybody has a set base kit, and way less people are actually gonna run borrowed time. And what does this mean? Well, from my perspective, it seems like if a killer really wants to tunnel, they have to wait shorter now, and they can gamble on that people are not running borrowed time. And we will get to borrowed time in a second, or the perk changes in a second. But yeah, I'm not even sure if this addresses tunneling that much, because I just don't think a lot of people would run borrowed time, and killers are gonna start respecting the 5 seconds instead of the 15 seconds, and it will be eventually then easier for them to tunnel people out. I don't know if that's gonna be the case. That's just a thought I had about this. They have also made a new category for all these things that prevents you from using DS, and now there are going to be other perks that suffers the same consequence. So they call this conspicuous action, and after repairing a generator, healing yourself or others, cleansing or blessing a totem, sabotaging a hook, unhooking others, or even opening an exit gate is now gonna deactivate anything that correlates with conspicuous action, like decisive strike. So you can no longer stand on exit gate with DS up as you could. I don't know if this is a good change. I think we're gonna have to wait and see, because there are so many changes in this patch. So the meta is gonna change. There is gonna be a meta, there is no doubt about that. But yeah, it's gonna change, so it's gonna be interesting to see. It's a bit early to say, because unless you're playing the game and see how perks starts to fall on people's loadout and how killers start to interact with those perks, and the same the other way around, how survivors start to interact with killers after this. So the meta perk changes. So these are some infos about what is getting run. This here is Dead Art. Here we have Borrowed Time, I believe. And yeah, as you can see, Dead Art very prominent, and it's gonna change. These are killer perks. I think these are Scourge. Here is Barbecue and Chili. So for the killer meta perks, so Barbecue and Chili is losing its blood point stacks. This has to do with the prestige system. I think this is fine. It doesn't matter. Prestiging is gonna be easier, and you're gonna get more blood points instead by picking either killer or survivor depending on what the game needs. I hope this doesn't make people farm more. That is my biggest concern about that system. There are blood point hungry people out there, right? And I hope they don't just choose killer. Let's say a survivor main just goes on killer because they get more blood points there, and they don't even want to play the game, and they just signal that they want to farm. I really hope that this doesn't encourage more farming. That's my biggest concern about that system, and I didn't mention that up there. But they have made it clear that they don't want to have blood points attached to perks, which I think is actually a good thing, because that itself shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't pick a perk for blood points, and yeah, I think it's fine. Other than that, it pretty much stays the same. It's not going to be a perk you see a lot anymore, not as much at least, but it's still going to be a strong perk for finding survivors. Hex Ruin. So Ruin has been hard nerfed. It's now 100% regression instead of 200%. That is quite significant. And it will deactivate as soon as a survivor is killed. So if you kill a survivor early, Ruin is gone. I think Ruin was always a wild card by itself, because you could lose it in 5 seconds, or you could have it all match depending on where the totem spawns. I think this will make it way less used perk. So Pop Goes the Weasel now reduces 20%, removes 20% instead of 25%, and it's also for the progression that the generator has, not the maximum. If you have done a generator for 10 seconds, it's gonna lose only 2 seconds. This will be more effective on gens that have more progression on them, and much less effective on gens that have almost no progression. So I think this is a good change. It encourages better play, giving this perk a thought behind it, where you have to kind of pick where to use it instead of just headlessly zeroing out the gen that you're close to. You now kind of think, okay, this perk is going to be more effective on that gen that has more progression. And I think that's a good change. It encourages a bit more brain usage, let's call it that. Corrupt Intervention. This perk has been hard nerfed for certain killers, and it's fine on some killers, I think. So what happens now, it works exactly the same, except for that as soon as the survivor goes down, it deactivates. And my first thought was, hey, that sounds really dumb, like you should get it down early. But then again, I'm not a Hag player or a Trapper player or anything like that, and for those killers this might actually be really good, even for Myers. If you need time in the beginning of the game where you're not chasing survivors, this perk is going to be great. And for those killers like Nurse that can insta-down survivors at times, this perk is not going to be used at all. And I think that's okay. Tinkerer can now only proc once per gen, and that's pretty much it. You will have more time to react to it because of the increased time on the generators. Perfect. This perk was too strong, now it is still strong, and I don't think they overdid it. Noed, you can now see Noed from a 4 meter range, and it increases up to 24 meters by the course of 30 seconds. This is giving solo players more counterplay to Noed. So I think this is a decent balance. You're still gonna see Noed, and you're still gonna gonna have to counter it. And yeah, I think it's okay. Pain Resonance, they have removed the audio notification from this, and the explosion, it now just regresses the perk that has the most progression. I think this is good. This exploded as a meta perk when it came out because of the strength. I think it's in a good place still. It's still a good regression perk, and you need other perks to give you information that this one gave you earlier. And I think that's fair. Now to the survivor meta. Dead Art is a very strange one, and it's gonna be interesting to see on PTB exactly how it works, because it's kind of hard to tell from this. But apparently when you activate Dead Art now, you don't gain distance, you still make an animation, so I don't know if you spin in a circle or what. That is a joke, by the way. But yeah, you do an animation and then you have a second of endurance, so the same effect as borrowed time. It still causes exhaustion, but if you get hit in this 1 second window, you gain a speed buff, and I guess you have to mend yourself, and then you run away. If you don't get hit, you have wasted it and you go down and you're exhausted. This is gonna be strong still on Windows. I guess you can use it for unhooking and basically have a metal, kind of a metal effect or something like that. I still think this is gonna be used a lot. Is it gonna be the new meta for exhaustion perks? I don't know. It depends a bit how it works. The fact that you, after dead arting, have to mend is a bit strange, since you also have exhaustion. And there is definitely wiggle room. I think where the biggest nerf comes in is to gain distance from one loop to another, or for some fuck-ups that you do, which I think is good. It's gonna be very fun to see interesting plays being played out with this. Is it really a nerf? I think yes. Is it enough? I'm not sure. It might be very nasty. It's like having metal on command, almost, for just 1 second. DS, I dislike this change completely. I'm actually not running DS myself. I rarely run it. I do take it in if the nights where I'm playing and streaming have a lot of tunnelers, because some nights are worse than others, and I will occasionally slot it if there are a lot of TTV hunters out there. And then it helps me, and that's okay. Like, I find this a decent perk. I find it to be good for anti-tunneling, and it can be used in nasty situations. Now what they did to it, on top of all the other killer buffs that we saw earlier, this now only has a 3-second stun instead of a 5. And you can't open exit gates anymore. On top of that, it deactivates in the endgame. You can't even use it in the endgame to escape. I think this is a very dumb change. I think all of it is dumb. I don't like the fact that it deactivates in the endgame. I think if you have this perk, you should be able to have a second chance even then. And you're rarely looking at the 4-man escape because of this DS. You're looking at the 1-man escape, and I don't think that's unreasonable. It's not giving necessarily 4 people an escape. It can, but most of the time it's for 1 person. I mean, it affects 1 person. When I say it most of the time, I mean it can snowball into more than 1 person escaping, for sure. What I would have done with this perk is that I would have given it a... Because where I see this being nasty is when you hook as a killer. Let's say you hook Meg. She has the S. You go and chase Dweet. He doesn't have the S, doesn't matter. You hook Dweet, and Meg runs in front of your face. There are only 2 gens left because they brought 3 brand new parts, and then you down Meg and you want to pick her up again. At that point, you have already hooked another person, and you can still be DS'd by Meg. That's where I think this perk is toxic or overperforming. What I would have done, I would have left the perk the same, even with the 5-second stun, and deactivated it as soon as someone else got hooked. Yes, you can still kind of tunnel in a basement then, and stuff like that, but if you have 4 people in the basement getting hooked, well, you shouldn't be saved by DS, then you really did fuck up. And borrowed time is there to prevent stuff like that. I don't think this should be a second chance as long as the killer goes for someone else, and that's my opinion. I would love to hear what you guys think. I don't think this is a good change. I don't think it's healthy for the game, especially with the other changes that we have seen. And I don't even use this perk a lot myself. I do get value from people respecting it though. I have to include that. Borrowed time, this basically increases the base kit borrowed time to the current version, and it gives you also the haste for 15 seconds. Like I said earlier, I think this might be a... Even though they have intended this change to be a tunnel decreaser, it might even increase, because 5 seconds is not a ton. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe a lot of people will run borrowed time still, or maybe I'm wrong in that tunneling won't go down. I might be, but I have some concerns there. Iron Will, this is a huge nerf. This perk is basically gonna be a dead one. It now doesn't work if you're exhausted, which is absolutely ridiculous. And on top of that, it only reduces noises by 75%. I think if they had only done the 75%, this perk would have been fine. But that it deactivates while you're exhausted, I don't understand. It's very strange. I would say that's actually when you need it the most, so it's very strange, and we will not see this run a lot for sure. To be fair, you could run it without exhaustion perks, I guess, and then it will always be active. Alternative to exhaustion perk, maybe? There are killer perks that will make you exhausted though, so keep that in mind. Self-care. This is a huge blunder on their part, I think. This perk has lost healing efficiency, which I think is fine. Get rid of it. Shouldn't make medkits more powerful. But they have also reduced the heal to 35% instead of 50, which is ridiculous. This perk, I don't use it personally. I think it's fine how it is. I think this is where behavior is mistaken, in that just because something is meta, just because something is used a lot, means that it has to be nerfed. I think this is the best example of that. I don't think this is a good change in any way. The only thing I like is that they reduced the efficiency, but the 35% is gonna make this perk very little used at high end, probably. And you're gonna see more Boon of Healing, which has not been nerfed. And on top of that, on low MMR, you're gonna see a lot of people standing in the corner and healing, self-caring forever. And with gen increase of 10 seconds, low MMR for survivors is gonna be pure fucking hell. People are gonna use it on low MMR. They are not gonna know that this is very inefficient to use now. So the perk has gone from, I would say, even just decent. I don't think it was the best perk in the game by far. From complete trash and even a negative effect. Killers are gonna be hoping that survivors run this perk now, because they are gonna buy them so much time. And this is a very unhealthy change, I think. I didn't even use this perk. I almost never run self-care. So this is not like my personal... if I have a personal opinion on something that is more affecting my gameplay, my personal gameplay, I will make sure to say so. But this MDS doesn't really do that. At least directly. But yeah, this is a really bad change. Spine Chill has been butchered. This is actually talking about personal attacks. This is a personal thing for me, so take this with a grain of salt, because this is a perk that I run a lot. I run it mainly for the volt speed, but I also run it to counter killers in loops. This has to do with mind gaming. If you know how to read the perk when it flickers on and off, you can actually make out what the killer is doing behind the wall. This is extremely fun, because you can get it wrong. Killers can move a bit off. It's not a guaranteed to know which way the killer is going in the mind game, but it gives you some kind of an ID. And if you pay attention to it, and if you learn how to use it that way, it's a very fun thing to do, because you have suddenly another thing to pay attention to. Not only the red stain, not only how the killer moves and what kind of wall you are running around, But yeah, this gives you that extra information that makes it even more fun to be in a mind game with a killer. I'm really sad to see this one go, honestly. The first change they did is that Spine Chill only activate if the killer has clear line of sight. I'm not sure if they mean this that way. If they do, it doesn't make any sense. This already kills the perk completely, because if you can see the killer, you don't need Spine Chill to go off. They're adding a 0.5 second lingering effect to Spine Chill. This takes away the chase thingy, if not this already. I mean the mind game thingy. So these two already makes the perk useless for what it is. Now it will still give you speed in other things other than vaulting, because they're only removing the vault speed. But yeah, it's very sad to see, because this was a very fun perk. I never thought it was unfair. I always thought as a killer, being a Ghostface main, I used to dodge this perk, and I thought that was a fun mechanic. I know a lot of people don't find that a fun mechanic, to have to dodging or looking away from a generator to dodge Spine Chill, but I think that added more to the game. I think taking this away is gonna make stealth killers almost sometimes too strong, especially in low MMR, in the surprise attack. Maybe that's a good thing, that they're gonna get stronger. I think they're taking away from the game and a component of the game. If you wanted to be sneaky, you had to work for it. And I thought that was fine. And that comes from someone that used to call themselves a Ghostface main. So I'm very aware that this is good for Ghostface, it's good for Myers, it's good for a lot of things. But honestly, I am really sad about this. And again, this is a personal thing for me, so this is probably very biased from my side. Non-meta perk changes. So these are the killer perks that got buffed that weren't used that much. So the first one is Overcharge. I think this is a good change. It sounds pretty insane, because now it causes the regression to grow from 100 to 400 over 30 seconds. And to stop that regression, you will have to touch the gen, and then you will of course still get the easy skill check, in my opinion. Combine that with Doctor, it is his perks, right? So you will see a lot of Doctor running this, and you will see it all over the place. It's an interesting change. It seems like a good perk. Now Eruption. Eruption releases a fairly safe, released with fairly safe numbers. Upon reflection, we're comfortably with increasing them. We have upped the generator regression penalty to 10%, good, and the duration of incapacitated effect to 25 seconds. This is insane. If you are on a gem, when Eruption gets you, you can't do shit for 25 seconds. And in solo queue, that's gonna be fucking disgusting, because you have no way of communicating with the rest of the survivors. This perk is gonna be one of those perks which is decent against Swift and really nasty against solo. I think I'm a solo player myself. I play a lot of solo queue on Survivor, and I can see this being extremely annoying. Let me explain what I mean. If you are sitting on a generator that has Eruption on it and you don't even know it, and then someone else goes down somewhere else on the map that you cannot see, you can't do anything for 25 seconds. And if you're unlucky, that's the 3 survivors that didn't go down. They can't do anything for half a minute almost. On comms, this is going to be easier to mitigate, because people are going to say, I'm going down now, let go of the gem. But yeah, this is strange. I don't like this change all over, because I'm a solo player, so a little bit biased there, I guess. Knockout, so this one has been buffed slightly. I don't know if it's that healthy for the game. It's basically more of a slug perk, so it's going to be good for Nurse, I guess. Then that's pretty much it. By the way, they reduce recovery speed by 25%, so it's gonna take longer for people to get up. So yeah, it's gonna be a slug perk. Claustrophobia. It now increases skill check speed by 50%. Okay. Weird. I don't know. Dark Devotion. I think this is a good change. Now you can activate Dark Devotion by any means, meaning that you can injure a survivor by a Ram 2 or whatever and it will activate. So a Huntress can do it on range, Trickster can do it. You can do it with M2 from Pyramid Head. I think this is good. It makes the perk more usable. Jolt has no cooldown. I think this is quite an insane change. If you down a bunch of survivors, technically, right after each other, you can completely evaporate a generator. Imagine a Baba running this and downing 1, 2, 3 survivors in a row. Yes, that doesn't happen a lot. It shouldn't really happen, but you can absolutely crush a generator with this. I think this is an interesting change. Is it too strong? I don't think so, but it might be a real nasty perk in certain situations. I like it though. I do use this perk myself. Lethal Pursuer. So this is the same, except for now it gives every other aura reading 2 extra seconds. Well, it gives barbecue and chili 2 seconds longer. It gives also add-ons that give you aura reading, like the clown's bottles, for example. You can see them for 2 seconds longer. I think this is a good change, and we have gotten some counter for it as well, which we will get into. I think it's a good change. This perk will feel less of a waste. It's still strong today, but it feels a little bit of a waste after the beginning of the match, where this activates and then it's gone forever. So now it will actually give you something else, which should make it more buildable for other perks. Gift of Pain, so increases the penalty to 16%. I don't know. This one I don't like. Thantphobia, 22%. 4.5 for each survivor. This is a buff. I think it's nasty. We're gonna see a lot of legions being even more annoying. This is one of those that might be a personal bias for me, because I really don't like Legion. I really don't like to go against Legion. I find it a boring killer. This is not gonna make it any more fun. So yeah, it's gonna be nasty, especially with a gen increase to 90 seconds from 80. Monstrous Shrine, this is gonna be a Scourge Hook perk now. It's gonna turn all the basement hooks into Scourge Hooks, and you're gonna die 20% faster if you are 24 meters away as the killer. I don't know. It sounds a bit weird, but I guess it's there. I don't think this is gonna be new meta or anything. I think we're gonna have this perk again be very unused. The Scourge Hook in the basement is nice. The secondary effect is not for campers, so do you want to leave the basement then? I mean, the 20% faster is nice, but do you really want to encourage that kind of gameplay, that someone dies earlier? I don't know. I don't think it's particularly good, the change. Calm Spirit. In addition to Calm Spirit's current effects, you can now open chests and cleanse and bless totems silently, albeit at 30% you do speed. I don't like this. I mean, it's an additional effect. I hope people aren't gonna be running it, because even if you can do it quietly, totems aren't incredibly loud. I don't think you should be doing it next to the killer anyway. It can be critical in some situations, but doing them 30%, especially blessing totems 30% slower or reduced speed, is gonna take a long ass time. And if you then increase it on the timer on killer's side, it's gonna be interesting to see what kind of speeds we're looking at. Saboteur, this is a really good change, I think. This is one of my favorites this patch. basically just gives you the ability now, on top of what it's already doing, to see Scourge hooks. I think this is great. It's a counter to certain Scourge hook perks like Pain Resonance. Even if you don't get the prevent of a hook, you can be sure to make. You can often be sure to make it not be a Scourge hook, at least by instantly going to sabo that hook. So you can make a choice here. Do you want to try to do it on the hook that the survivor is going to get hooked on, or do you want to make sure that it's not a Scourge hook? I think this is a cool change. And I have been wondering if we were going to get any kind of information over what Scourge hooks are on the map for survivors. Now you kind of have to pay attention to where people get hooked when you see a Scourge hook perk activate. And now you can read it yourself with this perk. So yeah, I think that's a good change. Botany Knowledge has been buffed for whatever reason. As a survivor main, I don't understand this. I don't see the point of this. It's gonna be extremely strong. It was a good perk where it was. It wasn't overused, it wasn't underused, it was used for certain builds. I think it was in a good position at 33%, and now they're increasing it to 50%. I don't think that's a healthy change. Okay, so this one is absolutely broken. 80 seconds endurance is ridiculous. And I was talking about tunneling earlier. If anything is gonna prevent tunneling, it's this one, and this one becoming meta. It's gonna be extremely annoying for body blocking killers. I mean, it's gonna be annoying for the killer. The duration is ridiculous. It does deactivate with a conspicuous action, but still, it doesn't deactivate in the end game, and you can take a hit for 80 seconds. If anything this patch will prevent tunneling, this is the one. And I think this will be a meta perk. It's ridiculous if it stays this way. I do think it's way too overpowered, and I think they will change this. And if they do, that's when the tunneling problem comes in. I don't really know what would be a good change for this one, because this current effect is absolutely ridiculous. It's gonna be used together with Metal of Man. It's gonna be used together with, just body blocking and sabo builds in general. And even not for that, DS getting nerfed, this is basically the new DS. Yes, it doesn't do exactly the same thing, but for 80 seconds you're protected. This is definitely going to be too strong if it stays like that, and you can forget about everything that I said about tunneling if they choose to stay it like this, because this will prevent tunneling, if anything will. Ridiculously overpowered perk. Imagine how long that is. Imagine how long after someone is unhooked that they can come and body block while still even being injured. They have buffed Lucky Break a little bit. This one now increases the duration again, so you can add to the duration by 1 second by healing other survivors. So you can like charge this up again. It doesn't exceed the... is it 2 minutes? It doesn't exceed that time. I can't remember if it's 90 seconds or 2 minutes. But yeah, it doesn't go over the initial timer, but you can charge it back up by healing others. I think this is okay. Pharmacy, you will now get a medkit every time you're injured and open a chest, the green one. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really make it too much interesting to me anyway. You can get multiple green medkits now, which I guess it's better than getting only one, but you have to be injured to get it, so I guess it's a decent change. Shall we go in now? Soul Survivor, this is an interesting one. When you are the last person alive, your generator's repair speed is 75% increased. I don't think this makes so much sense. Unless you're trying to do that achievement, repairing the last gen and then opening an exit gate and escaping. So for that specifically, great stuff, I guess. You wanna finish that last gen quickly. Other than that, you are opening the hatch and the exit gates 50% faster. This is the one that you will see more used, I guess. The bigger reason to run this in a normal match. I think it's fine. It's not gonna be new meta, I believe. It's gonna be something you see from time to time for sure. Maybe more than I anticipate. Distortion, okay, so this perk has been discussed a lot over time. Some people call it good, some people call it bad. I think it has a big flaw on the current version of it, whereas you only have 3 tokens, and some matches, that's great. Distortion can be used in 2 ways, or simultaneously in those 2 ways. You don't get seen by the killer from Barbecue and Chili, for example, and then you will instantly know the secondary effect of this, which I like. This is the part of it that I like. You will know what kind of reading ability the killer has. You will know if it's Lethal Pursuer in the beginning of the match, you will know if it's called Barbecue and Chili, and you can know, for example, if there are certain add-ons on a killer. Other perks as well. I think this one is the biggest one, and it makes it very good to have on one in a Swift team. You can even use it for solo, I'm not saying you can't, but this perk is more useful for a Swift team that can share that information. The problem with it though is that it only had, I believe, 3 tokens. And certain add-ons and perks would like instantly make this go away like that. So because it only had 3 tokens, you would just burn them up in the beginning of the match, and in some cases you couldn't even really get what was going on. Why is it going away so quick? Why is the killer seeing my aura so quick? I think this is a very good change because it gives you the chance to recharge it, and yeah, I think that's exactly what this perk needed. I think it's now a very, very decent perk because you can have more than the 3 tokens that you had. That's about it. It's very interesting. I think you're gonna see this used more now. Lightweight, the scratch marks are now more spread out, and I think they wrote this in the wrong order. But yeah, they're gonna fade 5 seconds faster, which is actually quite interesting. I'm not gonna start running this perk. I think it's not great, but it is at least going to be more effective of what it's doing. Deja Vu will now have a 5% speed increase when you repair. Specifically those generators that are marked, I believe. This will make you... so Deja Vu works in a way that it will make you see a 3-gen in the beginning. And as soon as you split up the 3-gen, you see the next 3-gen. Great beginner perk. I've said this before many times. I think Deja Vu, Kindred, and Dark Sense are good perks for learning the game. And this is a decent buff to it. 5% is decent. No One Left Behind, beyond its current effect, you will now give a 7% movement speed bonus to survivor you unhook. This seems to be a trend for behavior in these nodes. They're giving a lot of things speed buffs. I'm really interested to see if all of this stuff stacks, which it has in the past. If you didn't know, you can stack Blood Pact with Hope, and you can stack that with Dark Theory, you can stack that with Sprint Burst. You can stack speed in all directions, and they're giving us a lot of these 7% speeds now, which stacked can be a lot. Remember that Borrowed Time does this now, you still have Hope that does it. And they changed this. This is a good change. They now make it so that it powers when it activates when the gates are powered instead of opened, which this perk really needed, because it made the perk usable to unusable, how it used to be. Now it is very much usable. So I love this change. Dark Sense, this one has changed for the better. It's gonna be more useful in the sense that you will only get the aura reading when the killer is approaching you or getting near you, within 24 meters to be exact. And yeah, for 10 seconds that's quite significant. It's gonna be a decent perk, or more than it was. I think this was always good for beginners. Now it's gonna be even better. Tenacity, it remains the same, but you also have less noise by 75%. I think this perk was great as it was. Now it's buffed. I'm not against it though. Hope. This is a perk that I've been running on and off for a long time, and I think they did exactly what I've been wanting the whole time. So I love this change. You no longer have a duration on this. You just have hope for the end game, which I think is great because hope was usable half of the time you run it at best. And so yeah, you often got no value from this. Now we're gonna have it the whole end game. You still might not get value from it if you're not in chase or if you're not able to do anything about the situation, right? But I like it. Aurelius, probably good because of the other changes to repair speed and stuff. You will basically double this effect if you cleanse a Hex Totem. So We're Gonna Love Forever. Same as Barbecue and Chili, it loses its effects on blood points gains, but it now gets a reversed Soul Guard effect for 10 seconds, so more than Soul Guard. So how it works is if you take a protection hit or unhook someone safely, you gain a stack. I assume you can only gain 1 stack now. And as soon as you pick someone off the ground, you are now giving them the endurance effect for 10 seconds. And yeah, that activates after that. So it doesn't have stacks anymore, or tokens. It's just, you take a protection hit, it activates, you pick someone up, they gain the Soul Guard effect or endurance, or time effect if you will. And yeah, then it deactivates and you have to do it again. I think this is a good change. It was still a good perk just for picking people off the ground. I think you're gonna see this run still a lot. Not anymore for blood points because, yeah, it's gone, but for the now secondary effect. I think this is a good change, to be honest. It's gonna be maybe even a bit too strong. So what does all this mean for the game? Well, off the record, if it stays how it is, you can forget about tunneling. This will be the new meta. I highly doubt it will stick around in its current state, but then again they did add Boon Circle of Healing to the game with 200% increase, and that was on the live server after PTB test where they displayed how strong it was, some YouTubers. If off the record stays this way, you're gonna see a lot of protection hits being taken. Dead Art also does this now. I don't think it's gonna go off the meta table, and considering all that, Metal of Man actually might appear on the meta. This is just a theory, I have no fucking idea. Keep in mind that it's gonna be harder to get away from the killer because you're sprinting less after getting hit, killers are recovering faster, they're breaking pallets faster, and with a decrease in grind, getting medkits will most likely be easier. And then with the botany knowledge increase, you're gonna see a lot more medkits, I think. Is this gonna be a fun patch? I have mixed feelings about that. Do I think that they're changing stuff in general is good? Yes, there are a lot of good changes in this patch. Will they prevent the meta? By any means not. It's gonna be a meta. This might be some of the meta perks. I'm not saying this is the new meta because I can't really know, but I think these set of perks are gonna be seen more. I think we're also gonna see Overzealous. We're also gonna see more Prove Thyself. This depends a little bit on the team. We probably will see more Distortion, but not by a ton. But yeah, I have my concerns about this patch, but I also think it's a good thing. I hope they rework Off the Record, and that comes from a Survivor main. And if they do, they need to look at tunneling, because with Off the Record, tunneling is gonna be very difficult, because it's definitely gonna be meta. And without Off the Record, tunneling might even be an issue. And I don't think one perk that will be slotted on every fucking, or almost every fucking Survivor should prevent tunneling. It's a flawed system, I think. And yeah, that's just my thoughts from a Survivor main. I would love to know what you guys think, and if you watched until the end, thank you. And yeah, have a good night.